Okay, let's be real. If you've been following the world of AI, your head is probably spinning. There's a new model, a new breakthrough, a new corporate drama practically every single day. It's a lot. So, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise and get to what's really driving the race for AI dominance. So, the latest chapter in this whole saga kicks off with a pretty wild rumor. Get this: OpenAI, the company that was the undisputed champ, is supposedly in a code red panic. They're reportedly rushing to get a new model, GPT 5.2, out the door just to keep up with Google's seriously impressive new model, Gemini. And this is a fascinating flip of the script. I mean, think back just a year ago. OpenAI wore the crown. They were the ones everyone was chasing. Now, now they're the ones reacting, scrambling to play catch up, while Google is suddenly setting this blistering new pace. As one expert put it, you can't help but get drawn in. It's kind of like we're all watching a high stakes corporate soap opera. You've got all the plot twists, the rivalries, and the entire industry is basically glued to their seats, popcorn in hand, just waiting to see what happens next. But all this drama brings up a really important question. With a new, supposedly revolutionary model dropping what feels like every other week, do these big launches even matter anymore? Or is the real fight for AI supremacy actually happening somewhere else entirely? Well, you can look at this in two ways. On the one hand, yeah, you could argue that all this fierce competition is fantastic for pushing the technology forward. But there's a more skeptical view, and it's a pragmatic one. For the average person, is GPT 5.2 really going to be a life-changing productivity boost? The answer is probably no. In fact, this relentless cycle of release after release is leading to a whole new phenomenon. People are calling it model fatigue. Experts, users, we're all kind of feeling this sense of exhaustion, that here we go again feeling, as we try to keep up with tiny, incremental updates that don't really change the game. This quote from an expert just captures the mood perfectly. He said, "I'm about as excited about this model as I am for the latest Windows or Mac OS hotfix." And that says it all, right? These new versions, they feel less like revolutions and more like, minor maintenance. A little patch here, a slightly better benchmark score there, but no huge world-changing leap forward. So if the industry is getting tired of chasing the highest score on a benchmark test, what are they focusing on? Well, it turns out there are entirely new and, frankly, probably more important ways of measuring success that are starting to take over. One of the big ones is the Stanford Transparency Index. Now, this isn't about which model is smarter. It's more like a nutrition label for AI. It's all about how open companies are about how their models are built, what data they used, their training methods, all the stuff under the hood. The whole idea is to reward companies for being transparent. Because really, how can we trust these powerful systems if we have no idea how they work? But here's the shocking part. The latest report uncovered a pretty troubling trend. Most of these AI labs are actually becoming less transparent over time. The scores are going down. Now, there are some exceptions, like IBM's Granite model, which scored incredibly high by doubling down on openness. But the overall industry trend? It's to pull the curtains closed and share less. So why all the secrecy? Well, there are a few strategic reasons. Of course, they want to protect their secret sauce, their intellectual property. But they might also want to avoid tricky questions about, say, their massive energy consumption, or maybe even hide just how much money they're losing to subsidize the cost for users. It also seems that companies selling to other businesses face a lot more pressure to be open than those selling straight to us. And speaking of energy, that brings us to another metric that's getting a ton of attention: performance per watt. The focus is shifting from just raw power to efficiency. It's like going from caring only about horsepower to caring about miles per gallon. The new critical question is, how much intelligence can you squeeze out for every dollar you spend on electricity? Now that's a metric with real-world consequences. So how does all this translate to what businesses are actually doing with AI? Because I'll tell you, the way large companies adopt this technology is often a world away from all the public hype. The story we're sold is that every company is going to be building their own custom-trained AI from the ground up. But the reality? Not even close. Most big companies are not doing that. They care about stability above all else. They need a reliable workhorse model that they can then plug into their own internal data and systems using something called AI agents. So their adoption path looks a lot more like this. First, they pick one stable model. Then, they build all their applications on top of it. Then they integrate their own real-time data. And they are not going to rip everything out and start over just because a new model comes out that's 5% better. No way. They only make a switch when there's a massive, undeniable leap in what the AI can actually do. And the reason for this caution is simple. Custom training a model is incredibly, prohibitively hard. You need mountains of perfectly clean data, you need constant, costly investment, and you need a whole team of experts. It's a huge undertaking that most businesses just aren't set up for. So, for the vast majority of companies, the smarter path isn't to build a new brain from scratch. It's to give an existing, powerful AI brain access to the right tools and information. And that's exactly what AI agents do. These agents, which can tap into a company's existing software and data, are the real game changer in the business world. Okay, so if these AI agents are the key for businesses today, what does the next generation of agents look like? This is where we start to get a glimpse of the next true frontier of AI, and it's pretty mind-bending. Some of the latest claims suggest that the next wave of AI agents could operate all on their own, working on a single, complex problem for not just hours or days, but for weeks at a time. Just let that sink in for a second. Weeks. And this isn't just science fiction. It's being made possible by a whole bunch of breakthroughs happening all at once. These new agents are basically getting superpowers. They're getting way better at using lots of different tools. They can remember what they've learned over long periods of time, and they can even check their own work and try again if they mess up. To really understand what a profound leap this is, think about it like this. We're moving from an agent that can maybe pull a few relevant paragraphs for you from a document to an agent that you could tell, hey, write me an entire 300-page book on this complex topic, and then just come back in a few weeks to a finished draft. That's the scale of the change we're talking about. And that leaves us with one final and really crucial thought. The real AI race isn't just about a slightly better chatbot. It's about building agents that can tackle humanity's most complex long-term problems. So the real question we should all be asking ourselves is this. If an AI can work tirelessly on a single problem for weeks on end, what are the first problems you would ask it to solve?